This is Simon with Trading Perform Coaching, doing a trade review for the room and kind of going through, well, what's working, what's not working, and what do you do when you're struggling, right? So I broke down in my journal 5 different pieces that I rely on to make trading decisions, right? And then, so what I want to do, so the whole point of having a trading plan is when you go into a ditch, getting yourself back to the middle of the road, because it's the only way you can consistently make money, right? So there's a couple of pieces here. So first, let's get, let's undo all this. All right, so we start with a very general precept, right? That general precept is that market goes up, we look for resistance to push down, then it comes up, and we look for the push back up, and we try to kind of stay out of the middle. That's a general concept. And we try to find where buyers are trapped one way or the other, right? I want to say that again. We try to find where buyers are trapped one way or the other, and we use our general concepts to figure that out. So the first concept is using the anomaly off a volume profile. That's where all the trading starts. So let's do 2 things. So to do that, we go back and we look at number 1. Where's our concept working and where it's not working? We're going to use 2 different examples in 2 different markets. One is ES, one is CL. So let's clear this. Does not want to do that. There we go. Okay, so we'll start on the daily, right? I'm usually pretty good on the daily. If I had to bet my life that those zones would hold, I'd usually be pretty comfortable doing that, right? So when we look at ES, the first question is, this is what I posted around 8:15 this morning, but the zones would have been the same if I posted them at 8:30 at night. If you look as we came in 5 in the morning, I see a couple of things. Number 1, first touch of this support zone. Wow, if I can get this. This worked, right? Second time it touched, it busted. For those of you who've been with me for a while, you know the first touch of the zone is the best touch. Second touch, not so much. Next touch of the support zone. It held, it didn't get a counter rotation. But it did hold and B. If we could have gotten underneath here, backside tested here, this would have made an excellent target. So far that part. It came down to this support area, 92 to 86, and it gave a successful counter rotation. Right? Wasn't worth a whole lot of money, but it gave a successful counter rotation. It closed underneath. It has backside tested and rejected. That part of the process is working. And then finally we came down to 74 to 70. Okay, so I can write down in my notes, to begin with, on ES, it's gotten a little more difficult to read the price action, but the key support resistance levels based on the profile chart are working. That's good to know. We've established that in 3 minutes. I can strike having to worry about that portion of my work and my business off the page for ES. So now we go do the same thing with CL. Let's erase all this. And the other thing we know is that we've now squeezed underneath the 62 retrace. Rallies should be able to be sold if you can't get back above 29.24. That's important. You want to write that down, right? If you cannot get back above 29.24, this area should provide resistance for rotations lower. Period. End of sentence, right? Next. CL. How did CL do today? Again, I posted CL charts until 8 o'clock or 7:55 this morning, but this is pretty much what it would have looked like overnight. I would not have changed them. I base all the charts on the prior day's U.S. session action. We didn't quite backside test it. If you look overnight, this is from into the evening. We did an over, right? They tried to get above. They squeezed a little bit behind. Still reasonable to say the resistance zone held. Rotated underneath, right? Came back, couldn't quite make a downside test. On the first touch of support at 6 a.m., you got a tradable counter rotation. That worked. It's important to know that's a basis and a fundamental part of our trading decisions. So that worked, gave you a target. We got underneath, the backside tested, prior support equals resistance. We long liquidated at 9:30 in the morning on news. I don't trade the news, but that's what we did, and that was an impulse move down. Next, came down to this red line is an old swing low. It's a retail trade location. It is not a zone.
We get a response from there. It travels to the zone. So we've done three things. We traveled from anomaly to anomaly to anomaly. We've bounced, and this is the logical upside target, particularly now that we've trapped back inside the prior swing low. We've dipped just underneath the swing low, trapped back in. This would be the natural target for right now, okay, where I would expect resistance. Hypothetically, without redrawing the chart from today, it's also a return to the scene of the crime from the inventory number. Okay, so what I'm trying to do with this process is reduce anxiety, right? When something's not working, when you start losing money, right? So I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, right? I am nowhere close to being in the poorhouse or being broke or having to take a job, right? But I still get anxiety when I start to lose money. Who wouldn't, right? Especially if it's a lot of money. If it's a little money, it's upsetting. If it's a lot of money, a little anxiousness, right? I had to have a conversation with my wife, my trading coach, all that stuff. And I'd really just rather tell everyone how awesome I am at the end of the day instead of discuss where I'm screwing up. So I've got one piece that I can go back to, right? If I can't make anything else work, now I know. Center my trades at or near critical points of control, right? So if I'm losing money, these charts get posted every day. I go back to these zones, our critical trade locations, and if the market gets harder, so when the market's easy, I don't need these critical trade locations as much. Everything works. That kind of goes hand in hand with higher volatility readings, right? I got to check one thing on CL here real quick. 52.77. I gotta take a shot at that. Hold on a second here. Okay, so next, I gotta drop one other thing here. I am thinking while I'm coaching. I know I've got to make it underneath here to go anywhere to the downside. And we've also cleared all of these, which should hypothetically make that support. Okay, and we have not had the first 50-60 back. Okay, so now let's talk about the second part of our process, which is important, right? The next part of our process involves all the getting the right range bar relative to the rotation. So on ES, let's go start with ES. On ES, the one range bar has gotten too hard. There's too much noise. It's too wide a range. You kind of have to bail on that, right? So that's the first thing, right? So the second thing is, by the way, I really want to short this 52.82 against 52.92. in exchange for retesting these lows at 52.34. I'm going to leave that alone and focus on the coaching instead. But that shift down kind of gives you a fractal. Actually, I can just run it really tight because if I just don't get above 52, I can short 52.82 against the 52.88 type of trade. And it's a tight 6-cent stop, but I haven't been having the greatest of days, so I'm just going to leave it alone momentarily. Okay, so next, I'll just keep this going while, and if something happens with Trump or says something, we'll know what the deal is. But I thought that 82 against 92 was a pretty decent guess, right? That we'll roll back in and at least test this 52.56 right over here, which would give you a head and shoulders, right? And a shift down below that 52.56 probably blows that up. Okay, so let's go through our next piece. On ES. We're going to clean slate. And we're going to look really at what's been going on. So remember, we need to go up and down. And part of the problem is really since the open, we kind of open drove lower. This is the open. Right here at 8:30. Right? And we never made it back to the 50-60 retrace. Okay, which is fine. That is actually indicative of a downtrending market. You just would have thought all the so I want to bring up an important point. See how we trended down all night long? If you read Dalton's Mind Over Market, he'll talk about short inventory and long inventory. And you'll hear me say this from time to time, which is
if we open up with short inventory, meaning everyone's short from overnight, right? And they are not forced to come in the first 20, 30 minutes of the day, they win, right? Because meaning the new participants who came in at the open of the day did nothing to force these people's hands. They were actually able to short lows and continue with a roll to the downside. The only people who got smoked were really these people right down here, but they were never able really to make any kind of concerted push to the downside. The next thing that we want to know when we come in, when I look at the market, right, where's the biggest push down, or right before the open or when I start the day? So this is my last biggest push down, and then I also want to spot where my last biggest push up is. My last biggest push up came over here at the end of the day, right? And you will see, you can see that from the buy weight, followed the process, right? Closed underneath, backside tested, rolled to the downside. Again, what am I doing here? I'm not trying to find a trade, right? What I'm trying to do is reinforce where's my thinking and align my thinking with what the market's doing. Because what we are not getting is the market simply closing underneath those waves, meaning the fractals, and falling away, right? And remember, I've discussed markets shift gears over time, right? You get a process, you get a rhythm, and then that rhythm changes even though the underlying stays. So we've already established that our keys, trade location, play a very, very, very important role in this process, right? So the next piece of that would be very important is, well, what is our actual detailed entry and why do we need a detailed entry? We need a detailed entry because, number one, we're either dealing with small trading accounts or very high leverage, okay? And we want precision in our trading. The advantage to the precision in trading is it allows you to use leverage. If you are unable to use leverage in your trading, right? If you deleverage, you don't need precision. You can just have a general correct area, right? So then as we came into the day, right, and I come back and look from all the European session, I can see this was my last push down, right? So normally, if you go back and look at any period of history, right, the goal would be, particularly over the last, let's call it 9 months, right? In an up market, if we close above this right here, right, that's what the market wants to do. We want to close above this down. The first thing you'll notice is we poked our head above, but there's no clear close above. See, they're actually struggling, right? And then the next thing you'll notice is, within that, is that we had to get above these two fractals. Originally it was this, then it shifted from this to these two guys. Okay, so let's go look at those two guys. From those two guys, we get wave 1, wave 2 uninterrupted. All right, again, this is the middle of the night. Wave 1, wave 2, and the first thing that you'll notice is wave 2 did not close above wave 1. Wave 3 did. Okay, it's 7:10 a.m. Wave 3 closed above wave 1. That makes this right here, wave 1, support. Okay, the entire issue with any of this is what? We did not close above the last wave down. Now, when the market is going straight up and we have a ton of momentum, that doesn't matter so much. This becomes a precursor to getting above that wave and then continuation. But as I've been pointing out for the last couple of days, the failure rate has increased dramatically when you get a wave 1, wave 2 that fails to get above your wave to the left. That was the warning sign, right? But that's not necessarily easy to short. So the first thing that you're going to notice is on the backside test of wave 1, had you taken that, you had a profitable trade. Now, here's the next challenge I'm having. What do I do when I'm profitable in a trade? I've gotten quite comfortable with starting to make really big profits the last couple of weeks on my trades. So I go, hey, I'm up 3 points. No way in heck am I taking this off the table. I have 10 or 20 points coming to me. And if I do that here, while I would have been long about 29.20, and I would have gotten up to 29.26 if I didn't take it all off the table, all the way back on me. Then Bill came back to me, and he comes back and goes, hey, Simon, he said, have you noticed that you're just missing the other clues? And the other clues are, so see how this is the last wave up, or this is the last wave up right here. All right, see this? Bill's like, Simon, you're not reading because you're trying so hard for the extension. He goes, I don't think you're reading the move. And So I want to expand this, right? Because all of this thought process should be melding together, and I'm showing you where I'm missing the opportunity. And I don't know if I'm missing the opportunity because I expect the market to rebound from where we were yesterday, right? So now we go last wave up. Excuse me. Fractal. Fractal 2, right? Last wave up. I'm going to call this one the last wave up right here. I'm going to draw a line underneath it. This. And we clearly, right here, close underneath both fractals, shift down, and we're now down underneath the last wave. Here, I'm going to highlight it for you. Okay. This is 8:21 in the morning. So I don't know if I misread it, if I need to get up earlier and start drawing this out and stop worrying about the bigger charts. But what we did was we closed underneath, right? I'm still thinking, in my mind, wave 1, wave 2, and I'm ignoring the amount of downside pressure we have. So then we come back up. Notice there's no fractal on the way down over here to interfere with this read, right? So over here, if I was long, right, I would simply said I don't want to get underneath this fractal. And I did. That would have busted that long trade. But over here on this backside test, we come right to wave 1. And what does my trade have to be on wave 1? It's approximately a short at 29.2350 against a stop against 29.2750. It was 4 points, give or take, maybe 5. Right? And that produces this huge swing to the downside. Right? So the first thing I know is that there was a trade opportunity. I broke below my European swing low. Right? I made an impulse move, and now I can actually measure that move on top of that. All right, so I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to go A, B, excuse me, incorrect. Try this again. A, B, C for my 100 and my 161. We broke the 161 and eventually made it all the way down to the 261 extension, which is actually pretty rare that we get down there. So the first thing that tells me is I have anomalies. I have a model that works, right? Really, really important. I have a model that works, right? Next, if I'm looking for the long, right? So outside of it coming into the anomalies, which we know where they are from the 5-minute chart. Let me just a second, make sure my wife isn't calling me. Okay. As I come in here, what do I have to get above? Just like over here where I wanted to get underneath my fractals. So the process still works, right? Which means I want to get above these guys, right, in order to push longer. But at the same time, just like I pushed up over here, this is a hard concept. When the process is working properly, you don't get underneath those fractals as they're formed, right? It doesn't mean that it can't work. It's just when you have a picture of something perfect, right? Like when I picture my daughters perfect, right? They're wearing these cute little dresses. They have bows in their hair. They're playing with each other nicely. You know, they're talking softly inside the house. There's no screaming going on. I have a picture of what it looks like when it's perfect. It's not always that way, right? I always love them, but it's not always that way, right? But I do have a picture of what it looks like. So over here, when we're coming down, I have one or two choices. I can commit to start bottom fishing this, which I did, or I can wait for the process to kick in. So within this process, right, we've made a discovery over the last couple of days that's helped us. We've learned that when we get this down wave over here, even if we get, so if you look, this is our first wave 1, wave 2. Neither one of them closes. One does close above the other, but our last wave down is over here to the left. See that? So if this is wave 1, this is wave 2, right? Even though wave 2 closes over wave 1, it never closes over the last wave off to the left. That was the first place I took a stop today, right? So now this is good to know too, because now I have to make an adjustment. If I'm going to take the zone, and I'm going to take the loss in the zone, I either have to wait for the wave 1, wave 2, or to get over the last seller, or simply take the zone and take the loss. I have to make the distinction, or take the win, make the distinction of trading within the zone or trading, because I had the right area for a long, right? Because obviously we came out of the 28.99, which was the very best. That 62 retrace, 29.02 was the bottom of the anomaly that was there. So any of this from 04 down to 02 down to 99, all of that was good location if I was just buying on the way down. But the buy on the way up, I had to do two things. I had to clear a fractal and I had to get above my last seller. Now if you look, this is my last sell wave down, right? And I have two challenges here. See that giant sell wave right there? This is going to serve as resistance up above. It's probably going to reject the first time through, just what it does. Okay. So notice small modifications within the thought process and how I can improve. Bill would take this one step further. He'd go, Simon, right? When you're in here, what you do is you're getting a wave 1, right? He was arguing that you get wave 1 down, wave 2 down, and when we were backside testing wave 1, it rejected to go lower. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that just yet. I'm going to need a few more days to work that out, but he is correct. Okay. Next, here's the top of the last wave, and it requires me to get above the fractal right over here. So this top of the fractal. So what do I need? I need a positive bar. Okay. And I have a wave 1 and a wave 2. That's at 9 o'clock this morning. I actually had everything that I was looking for there, except the stop is enormous. All right. If you look. And this is where I tried, by the way, this is where I was working that long and this is the 29.08 out of the zone, right? I had a left shoulder, had a head, green wave 1, green wave 2, green wave 1 cut off right here. You see we closed above it, backside tested it, attempted to push, right? And then the other thing I would do, since we closed above this last fractal to the left, is I would normally pull back 50-60 like this. And I would normally go long at that 50-60. So, and I did. I added to the trade there and I stopped right below. Okay, so that particular setup right there is a normal setup for me, and that was just a stop. There's nothing I can do about that. I had a zone, I had location, I had a 50-60 retrace off of a big time frame, and that trade just simply did not set up, and I'm willing to accept the loss in that particular scenario. That one's all right, right? But what Bill then pointed out to me was within this process, was you got underneath your last wave up, and you broke underneath your last fractal, all right? So now I have a problem to solve, which is I need to go back and look what the relationship was of having a down fractal instead of, in other words, I'm used to having these up fractals come up, but I'm not used to having these down fractals. And I've got to go look if back a couple of weeks ago, so I made a note of it, as to how these fractals played in what I'd call the market we have had, so I can learn what their new relationship is in the current market. Because ideally, under the circumstance, right, we close underneath, and what we would look for is a backside test to reject and push lower. And that actually would have been a valid setup. So two things are happening. We're not getting backside tests for trades. That is actually a good setup. And if you'll remember when we were in this trade, we were actually up 2 points and I didn't take the profits off. Why? I'm probably late and stuck in the process of, hey, I need to push higher in order to get this trade to be pulled off, right? Then lastly, when you look all the way down here, right? So I'm going to line this up. We figured out that this was kind of foobar. Over here, right? I knew once we got underneath here that 28.74, 28.76.50 was my trade location. Why? Because the anomalies in the zones are still working pretty decently, right? So if I come back over here, so notice I'm not upset. I'm just trying to go, okay, so it's 20, what was it? 28.75, let's call it 20.75 to 28.70. Okay. So within here, notice as we're rolling down, right? Our next, once we broke this, our next support level was sitting right here at 29.75, 74.75 specifically, and we bounced right off of it. That again reinforces, hey, I need to go back and make sure I'm at a trade location before I'm taking a trade. And as I'm looking through all of this, right, what I want to see is the same things. Can I get above my last sell wave, right? So here's sell wave, can't do it. And I don't get any sell waves at the bottom, so this becomes my last sell wave right over here, right? So I need to get above this. But in order to get above that, I also need to get above this. This becomes pretty damn important. This has been kind of saving my bacon all day long, right? But we do. Notice that we get above it, but we never shift above it. It's one thing I'll notice, right? And then number two, when I'm coming back, right, I again get a wave one. This is wave one. It's giant. Wave one does not get me over my last wave down, but wave two does yet again, but there's no shift, right? So now this wave one right here becomes support, right, along with the top of this zone. So I would do the exact same process. Come back, draw back my 50-60. Now, if I did that this time, right, it came in, I would have found location, right? I would have taken a little bit of heat, but it would have rotated up to a profit, but not a significant profit. And also remember, the ultimate location is here down to the downside. And remember, see how I got this fractal over here? And I'm going to go back a couple of days ago. See how I get this fractal right here? And then we come all the way back down. So remember, once I clear this fractal to the downside, I'm now underneath my last wave. And so the natural question would be well, hey, when all these trades were producing 10, 20-point trades, what did this part of the formula look like, right? So what happened here is here's the bottom of my last wave. There's the bottom of that there's that fractal that we cleared underneath. We know for continuation to the downside. This time it comes back, backside tests it, pushes lower, right? And again, if you draw your map out again from swing high to break to backside test, there's the 161 and there's the 262 that it made it down to. So it's not that our processes aren't working, it's that we're not used to continuing to be able to short in the hole, right? We're not used to being able to continue to short in the hole and continue to make money at it as well. It's a new deal, and it's a great place where you can really blow the crap out of your account. That's why I don't mind. I lost some money today. I don't mind losing a little bit of money if I recognize, hey, things have changed, and now I have to go and figure out what my new rhythm is, what I'm looking for, or wait till it comes back to me so that I can recognize what it is. There's too much of a perception that you should be able to trade every single type of market, right? So next, within this, here's the 100, here's the 161. Notice there's no fractal to clear above, right? It doesn't mean that the market can't bounce. It can, right? But especially when we're just rolling straight down, that's a pretty hard game to play. We get the fractals lower, right? And then notice, so let's keep going all the way through our count and everything that we know. So, made to the 100 extension, made to the 161, it bounces, right? Comes back up. Here's the fractal underneath. See that? So we know when we clear that fractal underneath, actually it's this fractal right here that we clear underneath. Clear the fractal, 50-60 back. Where's the last wave up? Funny, you got the bigger push and it couldn't make it past the smaller push. So notice in this case, it's opposite, all right? It's a really subtle difference. Remember on the long side trades, we wouldn't have to wait for it to clear the wave if we got the wave 1, wave 2. The assumption would be that it would clear the wave and we were all cool. But now look, it's the opposite. Here's the last wave up right here, right? You close underneath the fractal. You backside test it, can't clear the top, and then it makes this massive roll to the downside, right? If you flip back a couple weeks ago, I'm going to promise you, we could have gotten the big wave, wave 1, wave 2 with the fractal, cleared it, backside test it. We would have cleared that wave anyways. The thing is switched, right? And then when you look, when we finally come all the way down into the hole, right? So now I want to show you this. This is very, very interesting, right? So we must have gotten Mr. Trump, President Trump, to finally speak. So let's see how it actually operated when it finally actually got a real turn and a real stretch. Okay? So what it did was, and by the way, I want to show you on that CL. See how you could have shorted the 82? Right, I forget where it was. I forget what I said the stop was, whether it was right here or right here. But either way, right in here, this is what I was looking for, was for it to roll back to the downside. I didn't wait for it to clear the fractal underneath. So now, let's look at how it behaved, going back to ES, how it behaved off the bottom side really quick. If you look here, we came down, we came down, we came down. We know that that 74 was support, and we're on a big stretch. This is my last fractal, right? So I want to line it up. This is my last wave down. Happens to be the biggest wave of the afternoon. So I know I want to be careful shorting above this point. But notice on all of these how we can't get a fractal right at the apex when it's coming down. We just can't. Fractal right at the apex this time. So I'm going to make a note. For my longs, until the strength comes back, I really want to get my apex, that fractal right at the apex, because look what happens. Here's my last wave. Now look at it. Here's my last wave down. Now there's a fractal right on top of it. We close on top of that, right, and push. Now, if I look at that, so I'm not above, but I get a wave 1, wave 2. Here's wave 1. Here's wave 2. Wave 2 clearly closes above wave 1. You'll see they almost try to come back and backside test wave 1 almost immediately. Here's my support. This is wave 1. This is my last wave down. Notice, so I'm caught at a quandary. I'm at a support level. I'm not above my last wave down. Okay, but I have a 50-60 back. For me, that causes me a lot of problems. I know I want to take a long that will way deep in the hole. It just didn't set up the way I want it to. I would have not have taken that, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because I've been smoked too many times taking over the last 2 days. Not getting above that last wave down. It's just been too damn hard in that area, right? So I will wait for that to set up. But if you look, it comes back. See how this is your last fractal up, right? So 1, 2, 3 waves up, right? This off the bottom. I don't think anything was looking short, but that, oops, is the very bottom of your third wave up. Okay, so just like I want for the long, I want to close underneath my wave for the short. And the issue there is this is my last wave up. It actually ends up getting replaced right here with this wave right here. Okay, so if you'll notice, we closed. So I'm going to spread it out so you can see how it's changed. Because the market is speaking, we just have to figure out how to hear it. All right? So we close underneath the fractal, and I'm going to say we close underneath it right here. Okay? It backside tested this is the last wave up. We backside tested that wave up. It pushed down, and it pushed down into wave 1. Now this is how it's supposed to behave. It went from 82 to 78. If we had that behavior that we just experienced right there all day long, I'd just be gushing it. And I could just figure out which side we were going to trade on and what I was looking for. Now, notice there's no fractal over here, right? We get the fractal over here. But what you do get is you get wave 1, wave 2 inside, wave 3 finally closes above wave 1. Notice this is the second time now we've gotten wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 1 gets tested. It's held, right? It's pushed to the upside, and now it's cleared the fractal. It would have been better if we had the fractal down here, and we get the push to the upside, right? That's looking more similar, right, in terms of what we've had in the past. So now I want to do something different, right? I want to go back over here a couple weeks ago where we were killing it. So I want to just come back in here. What date is this? Here we go. 9/24, right? So you see this big, nasty, interesting that 924 was a down day, right? So let's go through our process over here and see how we would have handled the same turn on the same ugly day. First of all, on the top side, if you look when we opened, which is right, I'm going to use it because it's just where I stopped, right? Last wave up, right? That's also my biggest push up. I want to get underneath that, so I'm going to line it up. I'm going to put a line underneath. Okay. There's my last fractal, right? We close underneath, right? This is my wave starts right here. That's the wave underneath. That's my last fractal. I come underneath. I backside test my wave, right? Right at 830. Entry, stop, right? And if you'll notice, when we came up against it, all we did is come right to that fractal and push down. As long as you use the stop on top of that, you got paid really nicely. Notice, as it's starting to roll down, because this is what frustrates me a lot, lots of strong word, but it frustrates me nonetheless, is the fractals, right, never get in the way. See this? On the way down, I'm not getting triggered long. See that? I'm just not getting triggered long using the fractals till over here. That's the first place I think, maybe I missed a spot. I think I'm saying that right. That's a really easy gauge for me to use for not getting run over all the way down. The other part is I'm not getting above my biggest pushes down, right? Push down, and then each time I'm closing underneath a push up, right, we're getting an additional long liquidation. So I'm not getting these fractals form in weird ways. I'm not getting those fractals interfering, right? This is the first place over here where I get above a fractal, right here. So I want to show you this. That's the first fractal I get above. Here's my last wave down. Right? There's the fractal. There's the close below. Right? Here's the low. Now, do they come down and scare the crap out of everybody? Damn straight they do. And do they get underneath that fractal? Damn straight they do as well. However, right? However, what they don't do is you get a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 3 closes over wave 1, and they never get underneath wave 1 here. In other words, we're ignoring this fractal because we know they're going to push back a little bit, and you're getting a wave 1, wave 2 to the downside. And what we know, because we have the momentum to the upside, is because this is a wave 1, wave 2, but the momentum's up, right? Buyers are in overall control. But once we clear above this, this thing's going to rocket, right? These are guys trapping themselves to the downside, right? Additionally, if I do this, I now have my A, B, C, D. And you'll see that gave me a great, right, eventual upside target to that 262, right? See how beautifully that worked? And if you look over here, right, you did the second time through, came all the way down to test. Here's your last fractal up. You'll notice they closed above it and immediately backside tested that fractal to the upside, right? And then if you'll notice, wave 1, wave 2, this is your wave 1, right? And what you will see that ends up acting as your backside support, okay? Until it doesn't, but the first multiple times that wave 1 was great all the way through the night. And if we look on top, right, where we were looking for the short, notice how the fractals didn't line up, right? So if you look really closely up top here, right? So this ends up being, initially, this ends up being your biggest wave up. So we know we got to clear this to go lower in general. And then This ends up being your last wave up. Right here. Right? You had this, but you never squeezed underneath it. So then, and then your last fractal up in the apex ends up being these two right here. So notice, you close underneath. You naturally backside tested. And now we got the flush to the downside. Alright. So the trading was just easier back there, is what I'm trying to explain, without it being unequivocal. Right? So there's been a change in character. If you look all the way through that, right, even here where the turn was difficult, right, you knew you had to clear this, or you had to clear this. Well, we cleared this right over here. That's now cleared, right? We didn't have a fractal on top, even though you got the head and shoulders right in here. Sloppy head and shoulders, but it was there. There's wave one. This is the last wave down. We get above our last wave. You don't get a wave one, wave two till all the way over here. This ends up being your wave one. All the way over here. All right, we clear above these three fractals. Now watch. If this is your wave one, draw support on it. All right, you've closed above here. That makes your, how would we measure this? Wave one, wave two, backside test, and actually your ABCD goes like this. That should be your ABC. I don't know if we quite hit it, but that would have been your ABC. It went to the 682 and then it reversed. And then also notice the other part, right? See how this is your last fractal over here? Right? This is your last wave up over here, even at midnight. We had to clear below this and the wave. Right? So that's here. That's the fractal. That's the close underneath. Here's your wave one. I don't think it gets tested here, which means it's valid. That's the last wave up, tested right to the tick. And then look at the roll to the downside. So, what's my point behind all this? A, we've got a methodology that works. There's no question about it in my mind, right? Did it work today? Yeah, not so much, right? I wouldn't say it worked great today, right? Everything was too spread out. It didn't line up. Notice that when you're getting short over here, right, you weren't getting long signals over here. It usually plays out pretty smoothly, right, so that you're not getting above your last down fractal, or you're getting reset when you do to get it set up. They're not tripping in line. Now look at what we have today. I'll show you what I mean. So now for today, right, let's say I wanted to short. I want to short at the end of the day because I think it's going to zero. I have two choices here, right? Sounds super bearish. How do I handle that? So I want to show you the short from yesterday first. Right? So yesterday afternoon, that was a gorgeous drop on CL. I just want to show you all the drop on CL. Look how pretty that was. Up. You had to clear the fractal. See how it finally cleared that fractal? Backside tested it, and down it rolled. I just thought you could get that from up here. Right? It's fractal 1, fractal 2, there's your shift down. That rolled it down. That was gorgeous. So, yesterday, right? Right over here. So let's go through what happened, what didn't happen, and how it works. So number one, we were coming down. See your fractal got tucked in right at the bottom down there. Gets above it. Right? So if you look at that, you get above it. That's 1240. Right? Here's your last wave down. Notice all the anomalies lined up along that, right? So we had to get above this. So I wasn't long. Remember, and I had to get, but now we definitely get above the last fractal right here, but I failed to get above the wave. So I have a problem with that because the strength isn't to the upside. So I don't take the long, but there's your wave one,
interrupted, wave 2, interrupted. There's your wave 1, wave 2, uninterrupted. So that's this. And this. You've gotten above those fractals. So now let's look through that process, right? And how I figured out that I wanted to be short over here. So when we came up, I knew that when we backside tested this, we were likely to find support. What I didn't want was one of these fractals to print up here when that occurred. So notice I get this fractal over here. I'm still pretty chill. This is the last push to the upside, or this is the last push to the upside right here. I have to close underneath there, and that happens to be a fractal. They happen to line up with one another. Remember, my entry is at 1422 right over here, right? So I see it come over here. There's the bottom of that roll. There's the fractal, floating, floating, floating. We close underneath at 1407, right? First time underneath, your last push up is right over here. We've closed underneath that fractal over here to the left. And I decide that as long as it doesn't clear these two fractals on top, I'm in good business. So, in all my wisdom, I short 29.4575, I want to say, and my stop was 29.51. So 5 1/4, right, was my risk. My target was down towards that 29.30, right? This becomes the last push up. We've come underneath, we've broken the fractals, push back in, stops up here, and then it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Why? Because I've gotten underneath my last push up, I've got the fractal, and I've got nothing interfering now that we've pushed up, and I've gotten underneath the wave to getting the push going back in the other direction. Then it held the low. That's how it generated that trade. So when I look at this afternoon, right, and go, should have I had this trade to the long side? That would have been a nice long trade. I would have loved to have had it. But remember, I'm not trading just the market. I'm trying to trade my process. So there's the last wave to the downside. Here's the last fractal, right? Actually, I stand corrected. I missed it. Sorry. Damn. I hate when I do that. 3 bars. It's actually this. Is the last push to the downside. Okay. That's going to change the picture a little bit. Last fractal down. You've clearly closed either here or here, depending on how you want your point of control. Above the last fractal down. Actually, there's no argument. We've closed above the fractal. Notice that we came back and backside tested it. All right. Wave 1, wave 2. Right. So I cleared wave 1, wave 2. I did not get to wave 1. I almost backside tested, missed by a tick. But over here, I do backside test it. I guess I should have been on it. It's late in the day. Right. There's your backside test. There's your lift to the upside. So now, let's continue the thought process, because now we have a rhythm of what we are looking for. Right. So now I can come over here and go, well, Simon, you can say, well, first of all, where's resistance? Resistance is this guy right here. I'll tell you that right now. This is ultimately the upside target. That puts it at 29.12. Can we make it there? Yeah, we can. Okay. Number 2, what do I want to see for a short? I've got to get underneath. Now, everyone knows in the room I have other aggressive ways of entering a short. I got to get underneath these guys, and I'm going to want to see myself at least underneath one of these waves. See how I'm not getting underneath all the waves all of a sudden? See how the character has changed here? Ever since here. Now here, I did get underneath. I did get underneath the fractal, and if I backside tested that, see if I shorted that wave when we back, but, oh, you know what we did get underneath? Was this point. But even with that, had I backside tested this right here, this is where I would have taken my stop to the short side, and it's the first time I would have taken the stop to the short side. So all the way into the afternoon, this is the first time where structure and everything else has worked clearly, right? So what I want to do is pause. That's a lot of information to take in, right? What I want to do is pause
And then you'll also see the higher highs and higher lows on the fractals that we've been missing most of the day. Right? So now what I want to do is pause. If I want to short this, let's say I think we're going to 0 and I'm uber bearish for some reason, a bajillion points down, which I'm not, right? What do I need to see at minimum? Well, right now, if I don't get underneath here, I'm not even going to consider a short. Yes, that is a full 10 points off, but it's a whole lot better than going through what people are going through right now, which is getting run over, trying to force that short, right? It's not surprising that we're bouncing. We're way in the hole. And if you also look, since this was the last roll down, we can measure it. A, B. We made it to the 100. The 161 would put us at 28.97. And the 162 would shockingly put us at 29.08. Right? And those are reasonable upside targets. So that's my 2 cents about that, guys. I don't have, I didn't trade very well today, but in terms of making money, I traded great. Even though I was down today, I traded great in terms of controlling my risk. Okay, I'm not like devastated where I can't come back in and trade tomorrow. I really feel okay about the day overall. I didn't expect to have 2 big trend days down in a row. One could argue that we've had a character shift. We definitely need a bounce to have better shorts. And we need to see the PA come back in. And it will. It'll backside test those areas. And we'll have easier days to get paid on. Right? But if you keep pressing on days like today going, I don't understand why I'm not making money. Right? And I don't understand why I'm getting killed and so on and so forth. Well then, yeah, in that case, you do have a problem. Because you can't keep drilling your trading until it no longer makes any financial sense, right? Like, so let's take my P&L, for example. I'm down 4 points on a half-point trade and 7 points on a full trade. Maybe 6.5. I think it's 7. So that's 7 plus 4.5, that's 9 points, right? So that's roughly 2 so-so ES trades for me, 1 CL trade for me, effectively, right? So that's not devastating. That's not even anywhere close to my daily stop at this point, right, of where I have to stop. But it was enough to tell me that what I was looking for was not happening. But what this exercise tells me is that I can now move back, like for example. So we know where the 161 is, and we know that this should have provided resistance, right? And so it would make sense in here to look for exhaustion in this area. And what do I know how this works with these extensions is it usually will come back underneath, right? So notice this is 28.86. The bottom of this is 28.89, right? So usually what will happen is we'll have to get under some kind of seller. See how all of a sudden each 5-minute bar is one on top of the other? And so a V shape is certainly possible. We have to get underneath these fractals. And this is going to retard my desire to sit here and fight this, even if I think it's going to completely roll over. I'm not going to take stop after stop. And even more importantly, for my own trading and my own security, my own knowledge, right, is I'm not going to sit there, right? I am not going to sit there and insist that the market come back down and get locked in the bear mode. And I'm not going to get mad that I didn't get the long off the bottom. Why? Well, because I already had pretty good areas. I nailed the location-wise for my charting, and it was more important for me to come back and get my pieces lined up. Now what I have to do to make this all work together is I have to go back and practice, right, so that I can see it in real time. So I'm going to open the floor for any questions anyone has. I went at it for about an hour. That's pretty good. Bill, comments? Randy? Derek, anyone? Karen? Joshua? Joyce? It's not often that I go through it in that much detail, so maybe I covered all the bases. So, and the final piece is days like today suck because you really can't see them coming. Clearly something changed, right, with the way the market was, and the speed was not there. even this pace hasn't changed. It's just grinding one bar over the other, right? Until they run out of traders. Maybe everyone's still anticipating that our POTUS will speak. And remember, we now have fractal shift down, so you can also take your first shift down over here. You just have to be willing to take the stop on it. What is our president trashing? The Fed? The whistleblower and the impeachment thing. Yeah, he's going to be stuck on that for a while. He doesn't like impeachment. So see how you've gotten fractal. As long as you're willing to take this first stop, right? See that shift down? That's a reasonable place to guess, I would say. All right, and then the other thing to look for is that does that compose any kind of head and shoulders? You'd be hard to argue that, wouldn't you? It'd have to be that. Geez, I don't see it. So that shift down, so I want to show you something, right? Y'all see that shift down right there that's about to print? I can get over my domes. So 29.80, so 29.90.75. Okay. So see that right there? Let's just watch what happens. Let's just use it as a training exercise. We've had fractal, first shift down. So you short the first close underneath. So just text it underneath. Okay, so see, so this shift, it simply should not get behind this bar. All right. It's a dangerous trade because you have to be willing to take it 2 times back to back and you have to get the extension. Also, what are we looking for? Fractal somewhere nearby. Problem is it's all the way down here. All right. This is the first place you'll get underneath the wave. All right. Let's see what they do. And we should go up, right? I mean, it's 1:55 in the afternoon. They pounded it pretty damn good. Is he still speaking? Got it. And there's your fractal trend line.
Karen. And let's go. I think that was a pretty good video. I'll post it for the members here. Let's save that.